looking at the right side of the map in this matchup, Cyclone Spin versus Benji, two of the most touted solo laners in North America.
Cyclone Spin and Benji, you know that they're just going to want to try and box it out pretty much the entire time. But I think for Allegiance, what they really need to keep in mind is Weekend has to just kind of revert back to that old style that we've become so familiar with from him, where he just sits in that solo lane and there's no issues, at least not from my perspective, with him doing that.
Fafnir and Huyi, the bans for Team Allegiance, where Osiris is the focus for E United, again looking at Cyclone Spin. Nemesis, the other ban, looking at Weekend, one of his most comfortable gods and one of the gods that allows him to camp that solo lane very, very well. So Allegiance has an option of Cucullin, which they like to first pick, but also RTO, and that's going to be their choice. Could be for Cyclone Spin, but could also go to Neil Ma in the support role.
It could be for Neil, but one thing that was mentioned a little bit earlier today, E United, if there's a team that's had a lot of success fighting both with and against RTO, it's going to be E United. They seem to have really figured things out and opting for that Terra as their response pick.
Terra still, despite all the nerfs, gets picked right away by E United. So Luminosity found a lot of success with it. Obey won a game with it, still pretty prevalent in the pro scene thus far. Ratatoskr, the other pick, another character that got an adjustment, though his was positive in the latest patch, and he is seeing a lot more play as of late. Cucullin is selected by Team Allegiance, so despite not going for it first, they end up corralling that one. And the Amuz and Cobb, which certainly could go mid lane, a little bit of EU flavor to this draft if that's mid, but with Oceans patrolling that mid lane, the former Hunter for Allegiance, it would make sense.
And that's one of the two things that you have to keep in mind too with ALG, is that both Oceans and Met Yankee, they seem to be Hunters at heart, and as much as you want to swap them around in mid lane Hunter role, it won't really make the difference, because when it comes to the drafting phase, ALG loves trying to get away with the double Hunter compositions.
Erlong Shen trying to answer some of that pressure on the right-hand side. Plenty of it between Ratatoskr and Erlong Shen for United on the right side of the map. Kronos, the ban, looking at those double Hunter players on Allegiance and Oceans and Met Yankee, as well as the Thoth looking at Venenu as that late game carry. Ven seems to be the flexible guy here for E United in their drafting phase. They give Benji and Panicat these gods that they can carry on. Scream likes to play things that can get ahead but are really there to get pressure, and Ven just kind of fits whatever they need.
The Scream's kind of just the utility guy for setting up his mid laner, and typically that's what you want, is your mid laner to respond off of that setup, but sometimes it kind of goes the other way around. I would have to agree with you that Ven really good at recognizing what his team would benefit with the most and then being able to flex pick into that.
Well, Raijin, they want more pressure, and that's what they're going to get with that pick for sure. Love this Artemis ban, by the way, for Team Allegiance. Pandacat, the Artemis player in North America without a doubt, and a god that we haven't seen a lot of as of late, but if Amuz and Cobb is starting to come back in that dual lane, Artemis is a pretty good matchup there, because she doesn't care about getting stingered. I mean, she doesn't have an escape anyways, so who cares about getting crippled? And she can lock down and really out-damage that Amuz and Cobb in the 1v1.
I think the 1v1 trade would probably favor the Artemis because of that crit potential in the Artemis due to that passive, but on top of that, the mobility provided by E United between the Terra's Blessing, the global presence because of the Ratatoskr, just a lot of different ways for E United to really punish that AMC.
Jing Wei, the final pick for E United, and Serket and Soul round out Allegiance's draft as well. I really like the Serket here. Weekend, very comfortable on this god, can step up and be a carry on this god, and excellent into Terra in particular, as well as Erlong Shen.
It's the Erlong Shen as well that I'm really keeping an eye on, because again, if it's Erlong in the solo lane, and there is one part of the map that we both spoke about wanting to see ALG try and put pressure on, it is the right-hand side. You don't want to allow Benji to have a free lane.
I'm not sure that Scream and Benji have been on the back foot once so far during the fall split, so if Allegiance can put them there, can put that right side of the map behind, I'd be interested to see how they can respond. And Serket, Cucullin, two gods that can certainly do it, especially into that Erlong Shen, as you mentioned, shutting down the heal off of his ultimate. So look for Weekend to spend a lot of time on that right-hand side in the early game, especially with Cyclone Spin going for a horrific emblem, adding a little bit of extra kill potential to this solo lane side of the map. And Benji, usually when you see one solo laner get horrific, the other one kind of predicts it and goes for sprint. Not the case this time, the shell for Benji instead.
Benji not wanting to take any chances. The shell still might be enough to buy him some time, at least for Scream to help him out in that solo lane side. And they're actually starting on their own buff. Same story for Weekend and Cyclone.
Look at where the dual lane of United's going, though, towards the red buff. Neilma recognizes this and heads off of that red buff. and allows United to be the ones to pull it. Even with 2 abilities, Neilma's not going to be able to secure that own red. United recognizing the strategy that Allegiance is lifted from the EU side of the SPL, where they put their support all alone in the dual lane and put their hunter in mid, trying to up that clear potential. And this is the United's response, shutting down this left side of the map. They get both buffs.
And this is where I'm expecting to see a little bit of pressure come back out. Now it's going to be Weekend actually dashing away instead of into Scream and Benji, despite having landed the taunt.
Just not enough lane pressure in order to go aggressive there. Still plenty of minions left for United. But they do have the clear potential, Allegiance, now that Cyclone Spin has transformed. Meanwhile, on the left side of the map, United's going to get their remaining 2 buffs on their side and continue that push in terms of XP and gold. And this leaves Venenu alone in the mid lane, but as far as mid mages that are okay with being alone in the early game, Raja near the top, his clear is excellent.
Overall, I would probably favor this trade out to be in favor for United. I mean, they were able to strip away both the purple and red buffs, other than the smalls. It was Neilma able to secure the smalls, at least off of the purple buff. Not too sure about the red, but United having that much map control, it just makes things a little bit more difficult for Allegiance whenever those buffs start to respawn.
Benji could be in some trouble on this right-hand side as Weekend's looking for him with this early gank. Horrific Emblem comes out, guarantees the Cobra's kiss, and Benji's going to be first blood. Weekend shows up in Cyclone Spin's lane and gets an early game kill. Taco, you heard that one before?
It might be the first time for me.
Oh, well, yeah. This is what they do, actually, those two. Weekend camp solo lane, and Weekend's #1.
That #1 where in China? That's kind of the one thing that people haven't really said in a while, though. But either way, I do have to say that that was a great recognition play by ALG immediately once they saw that Scream wasn't hanging around the solo lane anymore. Putting that pressure onto Benji, that's exactly the play you got to make every time. And
look at the lead that Cyclone Spin has gotten for himself already. Level 5. With Benji just now hitting level 4 and continuing to control those right side neutral camps. Fire elementals, so important in the early stages to get that lead for your solo laner. Now Benji recognizes that he's not allowed outside of tower range, at least until he hits level 5. Problem is, even when he hits level 5, Weekend's got Last Breath waiting for him that can shut down that heal very easily. He doesn't have a ward available. He's kind of just recognizing that if Weekend's already made his way there one time, he's probably going to keep doing it, knowing that as long as he doesn't see Weekend on the map, it means he's probably going to be getting ganked. And Scream still waiting on his ultimate as well, but that could be some excellent counter gank potential. Ratatosker traverses the map faster than just about any other jungler with that Through the Cosmos ultimate, so look for Scream to be hanging out on the right-hand side as Neilma's in trouble on the left. Polar Bear Mike with a beautiful body blocks guarantees that knockup for Panda Cat. Not quite enough damage to bring down the tanky support. That knockup actually, I think, just saved Neilma a little bit there, actually pushing him kind of up and towards his own tower line. So once he's back inside that, don't think PBM or Mike, or Panda Cat, excuse me, really want to take any chances diving that one. Matt Yankee secures his own red, and that's important for Allegiance because if they're winning on the right side of the map, United likely to try and force it on the left. And getting one of the buffs, though Panda Cat stole away the purple, is at least a better look for the guys on Team Allegiance. Matt Yankee gonna get slowed down and lose about 1/3 of his HP from the former root combination of Polar Bear Mike, but still can be potent, especially against gods like AMC with that slow that lasts longer than the root ever did. And now that Met Yankee has joined up with Neilma in the dual lane, it might be a bit easier for Neilma to get a little bit more sustain going, actually get that lane pressure back in Allegiance's favor, because realistically, an RTO and an AMC should be out clearing the Terra Jingwei, although it is close. It is close. RTO, excellent clear, and AMC, also excellent clear, but Terra can make up for a lot of the clear shortcomings that Jingwei may have, and as long as Jingwei can play aggressive in that lane, her clear is also excellent. You just have to kind of stack that wave up in order to clear it efficiently. And now with level 7, Panda Cat actually will be having full clear potential with that knockup, like we mentioned on his first ability, so he'll be able to box accordingly with Met Yankee, both of the hunters toting that red buff around them. Weekend catching up to Scream in terms of XP, who's done a good job of just dedicating himself to the farm game. Weekend spent some time getting that gank and got his solo laner first blood, and actually he's the one who got first blood, so he's been able to continue that pressure overall. But Scream on the Ratatosker, some of the best clear in the early stages between the early base damage on his abilities and that AoE cleave auto attack, chain that doesn't really get brought up as much. When you think about cleave auto attackers, you're thinking about Camazotz and Thanatos, but Ratatoskr is right there, and that ups that clear time so much.
And that ward by Benji is the main reason why we see Benji playing so close to his tower line, knowing that Weekend is hanging around that right-hand side yet again. Wouldn't be too surprised to see Scream maybe try and get a gank going off onto either the mid or even the dual lane for United.
Problem is that the mid lane is so safe with this Soul. I mean, even if Oceans even gets a moment's notice that Ratatoskr ultimate is coming, starting to channel that Disapparate gets him out of so much damage on the follow-up, and Purification Beads as well can make it pretty difficult to find that kill. AMC certainly a lot more gankable with no Purification Beads, but the Aegis Amulet would be something that Scream has to take into consideration. And Jingwei, while good at poking people down, not the best hunter at following up off of ganks.
Not the best, but she does have a little bit of setup potential, and once we start to see the items come online for Pandacat, that's where we can expect a little bit more follow-up guarantee.
Neoma chasing down Venenu, putting good damage onto the enemy mid laner. That's what RDO does very well, is willing to stick up in the face of the enemy and bring them down, and that cripple field that is so potent for RTO. Great against Raijin because it takes a little bit for that Thunder Crash to go off. Also great against Scream, Polar Bear Mike, Pandacat, even Benji. This cripple field, United allowed Allegiance to first pick the RTO and then picked 5 gods that don't really like getting crippled.
And again, this is probably the most passive I have ever seen Benji play, and it's all because of that one ward that he has hanging around at the top right corner. It's just really stopping Weekend from trying to get off as many ganks as possible. And
that's a nice adjustment from United, who have really spent the majority of this season playing aggressive in the early game and looking for the fights themselves. Now it's Scream looking for the fight onto Neoma. Wall's a little bit off there from Polar Bear Mike, and that allows Neoma to squeak through and head back towards the safety of Oceans. That was the first aggressive play we've seen United make so far in this game. And it was onto the support, who has already gotten some cooldown boots. Not particularly tanky this early on.
Nemo's not really looking to be tanky as much as he's looking to try and spam out that cripple field. Anybody who comes into that general vicinity for ALG, they just want to have that all-in possibility. And if there's one way to do it, you get a little bit of damage. You get a lot of mana as well off of those CDR boots.
Wow, 8 minutes in, that solo tower already falls. Cyclone Spin really making the most out of that early gank that Weekend came over and got Allegiance their slight lead, but ALG hasn't done much with it since, but clearly not worried about keeping the tower up in that solo lane, which sometimes we see solo laners do. They want to keep that tower up to deny gold to the enemy laner, to keep them locked in that lane. But in this case, Cyclone's been willing to just get that 500 gold for his squad because Benji didn't seem keen on leaving that anytime soon.
And I really love this positioning from Met Yankee because as soon as Pandacat dashed in, he immediately started retreating towards his tower line. He doesn't have any wards for himself, but as a hunter, you can kind of just recognize off of your enemy's play style. If they're going in and you don't see other people on the map, you can kind of just expect you're probably getting ganked.
Not a lot of wards on the map if you take a look at the mini-map, and so Benji, not a lot of wards over there, but he just has a feeling when he's going to get ganked. Same could be said for Met Yankee, really speaking to these players' situational awareness without the use of those 50 gold wards. So that doesn't give you an excuse to not buy wards in your games, people. Buy them.
This is more telling for an SPL player's experience and their own veteran knowledge as opposed to anything else. And it's just one of the things that kind of goes hand in hand. You just learn to recognize if he's playing aggressive on me right now, that means his jungler is probably nearby, and vice versa. There's just a lot of little opportunities that players can look for.
Weekend going in, looking for the speed buff, but Scream's already got it. He gets hit by that taunt and the last breath, but he's already channeling that through the Cosmos. Benji's here, and Scream's going in. Weekend's beads forced, and Venenu up into the Taiko drums. Not a lot of damage coming out of United's mid laner as Neoma is here and forcing everyone out to the right-hand side. Allegiance has to be concerned about Pandacat coming in with that Jingwei passive as Benji continues the push onto Weekend. He jumps away with that ambush, and Horrific Emblem comes out to keep Weekend safe.
And it's going to be Cyclone again, saving the life of his jungler. Weekend having to be careful, though, because Scream, he's made his way back. He's not the healthiest, but healthy enough to try and punish. And either way, not going to be able to steal that speed buff from Weekend, but now Neilma is actually in a lot of trouble on the backside.
Good discipline from Scream. That has got to be a tempting offer to dash in and try and finish off a low HP Weekend on a speed buff, but instead plays it safe, just tries to seal it away with the Acorn Blast. Couldn't find it, but did force back Weekend. Neilma almost falling as well, so whole lot to do about nothing, as neither Allegiance nor United get a successful invade nor a kill.
Check out that first item buy from Weekend, though. Again, taking a little bit of a page out of Captain Twig's book. Not too certain that we'll be seeing that Mystical Mail following up after, but either way, the Onkile is a pretty massive pickup right now.
Panda Cat really getting outboxed here by Met Yankee, but that's because Scream is on the way. Met hasn't backed yet for his purification beads, and Panda Cat's going to claim first blood on the United side, finding their first kill. Weekend in, looking for Panda Cat in response, and he will fall. Oceans gets credit, but Weekend sets him up.
That was a great response, though, by ALG, ensuring that if their Hunter's going to die, yours is too. So that just means that Panda Cat won't have that small lane advantage over Met Yankee, where he's able to get more farm while Met Yankee's waiting to respawn.
Panda Cat just didn't seem to be expecting that damage out of Met Yankee's Stinger, and even if he was willing to stand in there and take it because he knew that Scream and Polar Bear Mike were on the way, but a quick reaction from Oceans and Weekend, Neilma as well in tow evens it up in that engagement for Allegiance and keeps them slightly in the lead in terms of kills, just about as slightly in the lead in gold as well, up about 500.
And Neilma not really able to do much of anything. He's kind of just hanging out by himself, but he's still pressuring out Venenu and Scream very efficiently. It just means that Oceans has all the more relaxation while he's farming out mid lane.
Venenu feels pretty comfortable. He's pretty relaxed as well. He went for the Doom Orb right away, looking like the pretty prime build where he likes to go for that big damage option right away. Raijin is one of the safer mid laners. Thunder Crash, an excellent escape tool, even if it's not as good as it used to be. So I think that Doom Orb can synergize well with Raijin's kit. Speaking
of which, it seems as though that Terra's Blessing was popped by Polar Bear Mike, really trying to prevent ALG from looking again on that speed buff invade. But Cyclone Spin, he's level 13. He's ready to go in. Same thing could be said as E United is trying to get away. Benji actually taking the biggest hits. Can't get that heal off. Neilma's going to get credit, but it was Weekend's ultimate that did it. Panda Cat's all the way over on the right side of the map, and he's going to get a kill for his rotation. Scream going to combine with the rest of E United to bring down Neilma. It's a 2-for-1 in E United's favor. Met Yankee never got a chance to rotate over, and that's the power of the Jingwei passive. It just took so much to bring down Benji. Allegiance just committed to everything, but Benji just bought himself time. That's really all he needed to do. And sure, ALG was able to find the kill, but with two members now being dead and Weekend not having that ultimate available, it's going to really be onto Cyclone Spin and Met Yankee to prevent this Bull Fury from happening. Two-man slow from Polar Bear Mike. Cyclone Spin going in instead with a multi-man knock-up there from that spear, and it forces E United back. Met Yankee and Cyclone 2v4 and successfully push E United back. Seeing as though E United did a decent bit of damage to themselves because of the Thorns that was popped by Cyclone. Great secondary pickup by Cyclone, just allows him to continue being aggressive while also preventing E United from being aggressive onto him. No one can prevent Allegiance from stealing this Gold Fury away, though. Met Yankee's going to be able to get it as Allegiance is weakened. He's forced to jump back. Nice pickup there by ALG, recognizing that E United just stuck around a little bit too long around that Gold Fury, and that what was once E United's opportunity to take the objective turned into Allegiance's. E United had the potential. It's just that ALG's response was even better. Cyclone really, again, coming up huge for ALG. He's really been impressive so far this game. Portal Demon goes down, and it's E United's despite the ultimate out from Oceans, almost ripping that out of their hands. Neilma was able to secure the Allegiance's speed buff, but it doesn't go to Weekend, so does it really even count as saving the speed buff? To a certain extent, but either way, I doubt that Weekend really needs that speed buff. Neilma actually going to have a little bit more difficulties getting away because of how interruptible that dash is in the bear form from Artio. He needs the speed buff, Taco. He's a jungler. Are you even a jungler if you don't get speed? I think that Weekend has been invaded enough this split to where he's kind of just gotten accustomed to not having that speed buff. That's a sad time when you're accustomed to losing your own speed buff. It does seem he's going the Captain Twig route with the Mystical Mail right after the Ancile. So really looking for that setup potential, and then that's what Weekend loves to do. I mean, we've seen him play almost every Guardian
in the jungle role, he likes setting up for his team.
All right, on Kile, apparently, hold that thought though, it's going to be Met Yankee actually forced into the Aegis because of that Ratatasker ultimate from Scream. Scream not willing to let this one go just yet. Weekend trying to peel for his own ADC, and seems as though it's going to work out right now.
And that forced out the Purification Beads from PandaCat, the ultimate as well. Good counter gank from Scream, who's also picked up an Ansile or an Unchilly of his own.
I can't tell if it's like a prank patrol for the way that it's supposed to be said, but that's what Ajax brought up actually.
That's true, and I'm not trying to cross Ajax. So, and Chile from here on out, for me, 3-man grouping for Allegiance on the left-hand side, looking to maybe pick Scream off, who doesn't have any relics, and here comes the potential dive. Neilma, first one underneath the tower. Scream uses dash to clear the wave already, but it's pretty low cooldown. He gets it back up. Plenty of CDR between the Unchile and the Gladiator Shield. Good stun on the Neilma. The Stinger there as well. Neil still looking for it, but he gets knocked up right underneath the tower, and PandaCat's going to turn it around quickly for EUnited. Venenu in tow, looking to finish him off. Terra's Blessing popped, using that increased movement speed. Weekend likely to fall here. Tankiness not going to help him this time. And a little bit of greed for Scream turns into a 2-for-0 for EUnited.
That was a very intense commitment by ALG to come up short with. EUnited did have a couple of members that had back to base, so that could be the reasoning behind that commit coming through, but it's just so unlucky for Neil on getting knocked up into the tower. Having that dash interrupted just means that he wasn't able to proc the damage off onto Scream. Well,
Met Yankee doesn't have Aegis. He's being looked at again by Scream, and very low on mana. Scream off the mark with his first few abilities, and Met Yankee's going ring around the rosy, but PandaCat's going to be able to find him eventually. Scream utilizing the tankiness from the Gladiator Shield and the Unchile. So another kill onto Met Yankee. That's 2 in total to Allegiance's Hunter. 2 as well onto the support. So 4 of the 6 kills that EUnited have are onto the duo lane of Allegiance.
And PandaCat actually sitting at level 17, 4-1-2. So he's been a part of every single kill. And again, just got to credit a lot of that to PandaCat's map awareness. Every single time that Allegiance has tried to get a little bit of pressure going onto the map, PandaCat's usually been there to assist EUnited in fighting against it. And
PandaCat has been a little upset with where he's been ranking among the North American hunters. And for me, EUnited's been so dominant that PandaCat hasn't had a chance to shine. Your hunter is usually there in the late game, and PandaCat's just been kind of watching from the beach of the duo lane, saying, "Hey guys, you're doing a great job. Keep winning the game on the right side of the map." This is the first time that I can remember in recent memory that EUnited has not run away with a lead in mid or solo, and PandaCat's gotten a chance to shine, and shine he has. As you mentioned, 4-1-2. He's top of the player damage charts. And his ability to recognize where he needs to be has been phenomenal. Met Yankee needs to be careful because Scream is back, but so are the Purification Beats for Met Yankee, so he gets out of the stun from Scream's Acorn Blast. Neilma here as well, but no response from Allegiance, and Scream has been pretty happy just chasing relics away from Met Yankee in this game.
If it works, it works. And so far, it's been very effective against Met Yankee, who's been slowly but surely falling more and more behind when it comes to farming. But check out that throwback for the build path. It's hard to say whether or not this is going to be a Frostbound Hammer or not, but I wouldn't be too surprised to see Met Yankee with that pickup.
We'll touch on that in a moment. I feel like I have to. Gold Fury down to about half HP, but EUnited has responded. Venenu has the Raiju on Neilma, but can't seem to pop it. Good damage onto Weekend from PandaCat, at least a little bit, because Weekend's real tanky. He's finished off that Mystical Mail. Now it's EUnited's turn to pull this Gold Fury. PandaCat's got full stacks and the chin size, more than enough damage to tank up that Gold Fury without taking a significant chunk of his own. But EUnited's already expended their Terra's Blessing. Scream's ultimate's on cooldown for just a little bit longer. So EUnited's willing to play this patient.
But Benji's lurking right around the corner. Weekend looking to maybe have some kind of collapse onto the backside. It might be Venenu who's his target, and Scream kind of has the same mentality. He comes crashing down on top of everybody.
2-man knockup. Weekend's right there in the thick of things as well. Up into the Taiko drums goes Venenu, taunting in Cyclone Spin, but he's welcome to be in the middle of everyone. That's exactly where he wants to be. Horrific Emblem and Thorns used by Allegiance's solo laner as PandaCat receives a last breath from Weekend blinking in. Good damage from Oceans as well. Forces PandaCat out and out of the fight. E United now heavily on the run.
But it's Cyclone Spin again, knocking everybody up and stopping them from escaping. Polar Bear Mike with a great placement of his walls means that nobody can follow up that jungle corridor. Instead, E United safe for now. Weekend hanging just around the corner, trying to stop Panic Cat from looking for the steal.
9 ults, no kills, but it's Allegiance who have the ability to get the Gold Fury. Weekend's going to jump in onto Panic Cat, put some good damage onto him, but Panic Cat says, thank you very much. I'll take this kill and a consolation prize for losing the Gold Fury, which Allegiance do manage to secure their second of the game. Allegiance just so tanky that United got off to a decent start to that engagement, but Scream crashing down on the two frontliners. With Venenu going for the side of the Urchin, just not enough damage to punch through all that tanky front line that Neoma and Cyclone Spin have provided.
Still, United able to pick up that Portal Demon in response, which means that the gold lead is still, I mean, there hasn't really been any definitive lead in either direction, even though ALG has secured 2 Gold Furies. That just shows how strong United are at farming.
Venenu chases the ultimate out from Cyclone Spin, but he's not too worried about that. And look at where United's going. Wonder if Allegiance know. I don't think they knew, but they positioned well enough that United thought they did.
I don't think they had any idea.
There's
no vision. No vision whatsoever from Allegiance onto that side of the map. Now they're going to have a little bit to make sure that United aren't trying to just burst out that fire giant, but that could have been a risky one.
That could have been risky. A typical E United call, though, and Scream well known for those objective calls that he and Pain Deviand are big fans of, trying to sneak away objectives, but decided that one was a little bit too risky and back off.
This has been very well played so far, though, by Allegiance, really keeping E United on their toes. And E United are undefeated right now. They have had a very strong showing this split. And for Allegiance to be keeping up, I think that kind of just goes to show it's not so much that the talent isn't there for ALG. It kind of just seems as though it's been brief moments or brief lapses in judgment that have led to their downfall in a lot of their sets.
I absolutely agree. E United has looked near infallible so far during the fall split. They had their setup against Trifecta, Snoopy-less Trifecta, and looked very good, beating a top team in North America. E United hasn't looked particularly challenged so far, and Allegiance going toe-to-toe with them 23 minutes in. It is, I think, a good measuring stick for the potential that Allegiance has, and I think Allegiance would say that they've still made a lot of mistakes that they could have cleaned up and played better so far in this game, but if you ask Allegiance, 23 minutes in, you are neck and neck with E United. I think they would have taken that.
I think they'd be more than happy to take that, but they'd be even happier if they could find the victory. And it's something that we touched on not too long ago, but we didn't really get to break down. That Frostbound Hammer is going to be the choice, the weapon of choice for Met Yankee. And this is something we haven't seen in quite some time.
So why here? Why is this the game that we see the Frostbound?
There are a lot of Melee members or a lot of members that want to get up close and personal from United, more particularly Scream and Benji, going to be the 2 main people looking to take out Met Yankee from having so much damage output and free cast potential. That Frostbound Hammer, although it's a slight nerf to range carries, they no longer get the full benefit that a Melee would see on this item as far as the slow is concerned, but it's still enough to potentially buy ALG enough time between his honey and the bees and the potential disarms that could come through. Met Yankee has a little bit more survivability with this Frostbound.
This feels like a slightly more offensive version of Hide of the Urchin for ADCs. It's health. It doesn't give you any protection, but it gives you that health, and it gives you the kite ability with the slow, as you mentioned. So Met Yankee doesn't want to full commit to going defense right after Executioner, but still wants to survive a little bit longer. And Hide of the Urchin, his selection to try and do that. If it'll work, well, we'll have to wait and see, because Scream has got that Jotun's Wrath done. He's got plenty of damage now built in as Weaken and the rest of Elite to try and defend this tier 1 tower push. Nice 2-man knockup and stun on a Weaken. That forces out his purification beads, and it's Cyclone left alone. Up and over the wall goes Ocean's ultimate as Cyclone Spin throws out one of his own to stay safe. So E United commits absolutely nothing to get 2 ultimates and a set of beads.
And that's going to be a victory every single time, especially considering that Weaken took about half of his health and damage, and he isn't even squishy when you think about it. He's got that on Chile and the Mystical Mail. He's really looking to be more of a frontlining factor here, and yet he's still getting shredded through as if he isn't.
And he's got the Height of the Urchin completed now, so that was without Panda Cat. And Panda Cat's the guy who's going to chunk through all that defense better than anybody on E United with the Titan's Bane, the Executioner, the chin size as well. I love this adaptation because usually on Jingwei, you want to build crit. You're incentivized to build crit. Her 2 gives you free crit. But in this, against this matchup, against a tanky Cirquet, a Cullen that's tanky, an RTO that's very tanky, crit's not going to do you a lot of good. The penetration, without a doubt, the better option.
And again, that's kind of just credited to being a professional player and recognizing that what's usually picked up isn't always the best in every case scenario. This is one of those instances where you just want the pen shred, and now it's actually going to be Polar Bear Mike unable to breach through ALG with their 3rd Gold Fury of the game.
E United just no response. Only the dual lane was not in base, and Allegiance recognized that and pulled the Gold Fury at the perfect time. Venenu, Scream, Benji, they were all walking back from a mistimed back, but as they've done with every Gold Fury successfully going Allegiance's way, United goes for the Portal Demon in response. Gets low. Met Yankees here though, and this one's going to be contested. Leashed as Scream goes up into the air looking for that crash down. Actually misses, but positions himself on the backside. Eats a last breath from Weekend as Panda Cat used the airstrike of his own to try and get into the thick of things, but then realized that might not be the best spot for him. Benji zoning away Oceans at Met Yankee. Cyclone's been doing the same to the back line of E United. 2 solo laners doing their job flawlessly. Is now Weekend's job is getting the back line, but Panda Cat finds him and puts him down quickly. Met Yankee responds onto Benji with a quick stinger and a couple auto attacks, and it's 1 for 1. Tanky solo laner for tanky jungler.
But now Met Yankee, he's going to be having his ultimate back up pretty soon. I believe he was able to recollect his stinger, but E United still in favor to pick up that Portal Demon. No one from ALG really healthy enough to try and contest it, and sure enough, that's going to be another portal in favor of E United. No hesitation either, just straight onto the Fire Giant.
Love this call. Only Neilma and Met Yankee anywhere close, and immediately as soon as one shows up, E United looked for the fight. Neilma knocked up. Tycho Drum's going to secure this one. Venenu tries to taunt in. Met Yankee does so, putting a little bit of damage onto him. Not enough to bring him far enough in to find the kill. Cyclone Spin secures the speed and again steals it away from Weekend. So Met Yankee gets stunned out by Polar Bear Mike. Raiju right on top. Thunder Crash as well. Venenu has to use the Aegis as Panda Cat cleans up Met Yankee. Cyclone Spin looking to trade out at least one, but will not be able to do so. Scream will find the kill underneath the tower as Oceans tries to finish him off.
And it's going to be Weekend actually getting stunned out. Still gets the last tick onto Scream, which will clean him up, but the same could be said about the rest of ALG. Ocean still taking out Panda Cat from the grave.
Deicide for E United. They knocked down all 5 members of Allegiance. That was almost the sickest play by Polar Bear Mike. He actually separated Scream and Weekend where Scream was going to be walking, but it was the mystical male ticks that end up killing Scream. And you know he's still going to blame PBM for it, but that was almost insane.
Mystical Mill and I believe potentially even the Bluestone procs combined, willing to, or making that kill possible. It was a pretty insane wall attempt, though, by Polar Bear Michael, and all around really fantastic siege underneath that T2 tower.
But problem for United is that they get a Deicide and nothing off of it. A red buff invade, a purple buff invade. Allegiance is, I'm sure, fine with that. That's when you get Deicided and lose 2 buffs for it, that's not a bad look.
I can't blame United, though, for that one, considering that Panda Cat was the only member to fall in that engagement, and because of that, you don't have your Hunter, who is the person, he's probably the main target to have that Fire Giant buff, and so for E United, if they can't have Panda Cat with the Fire Giant, they don't want it at all.
Well, Panda Cat has finished his build with a little bit of extra lifesteal. We've seen Barracuda do this a lot, Panda Cat now as well, going for a late Aussie to complement that Devourer's Gauntlets. Excellent into these mystical male compositions that are going to be ticking away at you. Can get a lot of lifesteal very quickly. It's Polar Bear Mike and Benji get stunned out, and protection shredded by Neilma on the RTO, but no real follow-up, and deservedly so. Those are the 2 guys you don't really want to even waste your time hitting at the beginning of the team fight.
Met Yankee, he does have a Titan's Bane in tow right now, looking to finish things off with a chin size, so he can have a little bit more pack punched, or a more of a
a little bit more of what?
It's great. Words are fun.
Yeah, it's a Is it real high-res hours already? No, it's only like
so.
6 o'clock, Taco. It's a little early for that. Polar Bear Mike can't find the sun on a Cyclone spin because he jumps out of it, but Scream's going to jump right on top of him on the backside. Met Yankee throws out the swarm, and Neilma's right in the thick of things. Big knock up there by Cyclone spin, but not a lot of damage on the backside. Panda Cat has to ult away because he got ulted by Weaken as Scream also dashes away. He took a lot of damage from the entirety of Allegiance as E United now trying to regroup. Remember, Panda Cat does have that double lifesteal and this Terra sustain. Scream's got some sustain in there as well with that Ratatosk or Acorn. Allegiance doesn't have any of their own except for Neilma, and he needs to be near enemy gods in order to sustain his team.
A lot of abilities were dropped there, but it seems as though nothing really came about it. E United, though, feeling confident, starting up this Fire Giant yet again, trying to force ALG into some bad positioning as they look to contest.
Very close there, finding the knock up onto Panda Cat, knocked himself up basically as Weaken went onto him yet again. Weaken has been the dedicated mess Panda Cat up guy, but without a lot of damage, has just done a good job of forcing him out. Hasn't been able to force him to the grave quite yet as Neilma is tanking up this Fire Giant. Still about 3/4 HP. Weaken low, gets chased down by Scream, knocked up, stunned as well. The Protection Shred confirms it as Scream finds the first casualty of this fight. Neilma in some trouble along with the rest of Allegiance because 2 men get taunted back in. Cyclone spin right into the teeth of E United. Panda Cat's gonna claim that one. Scream looking for more as Benji finds one knock up onto Oceans. Met Yankee, Neilma all funneling into this tiny corridor by the blue buff. 2-man pin, 2 men dead. Met Yankee's gonna go first. No, Ocean stays alive because of that disapparate. Met Yankee's actually gonna find one with help from the tower and some minions. But E United find 4 of 5. Only Ocean's left standing.
And Panda Cat, actually, because of that double lifesteal sustain, he will be able to tank up this Fire Giant. And now E United looking like this could be their buff entirely.
But Oceans has ult. Scream was looking for him, but he missed him. He didn't see Oceans coming around the backside. Everyone knows that Oceans is somewhere. Finally, they realize exactly where he is, and they're going to make him pay for stepping up. You can see United like, we know he's here somewhere. I just don't know exactly where. But they all peel off that Fire Giant to keep it safe. Scream saying, you can't pass this spot because we're doing fire past here. And E United gonna get it. 4 members only, Venenu without the buff.
And that sound enough to stop Weaken from pushing any more forward. However, just thinking about that Portal Demon, recognizes that there's just way too many members from E United grouped up and thinks better of the situation. Opts to farm out that wave and solo instead.
Allegiance has been very close in a lot of these team fights. A lot of these team fights have been clashes back and forth where everyone trades ults and trades relics, and then a re-engage from both sides. And it's been E United who's come up on top without relics, without ultimates, both times. These just outright kits, you know, no ults, no immunities whatsoever. And E United's gotten the better end of that a couple times now.
It just feels as though I like the mentality from ALG and what they wanted to accomplish with the Circuit, but I think that Weaken needed to opt for a more damage-oriented build early on, and he's just not able to find that with this Bruiser style. He's been getting some great ults off onto Panda Cat, onto Venenu, but there's just no damage there, and they're so deep in their own backlines that E United is all too easily peeling for their carries afterwards.
It's true. Panda Cat has escaped on low HP basically every time Weaken ults him, but at the same token, Weaken has also escaped with fairly high HP because of how tanky he is. So there's a trade-off there. If he goes all damage, maybe he finds a kill onto Panda Cat, but he definitely falls in return. Just a matter of if he can continue to get value out of this build without having that ultimate available, and thus far hasn't really been able to do so quite yet. Allegiance look to defend their tier 2 tower. Scream's on the right-hand side, but has that through the Cosmos ultimate, so can be over in the mid lane. In the blink of an eye, Weaken now heading over to this right-hand side, and it'll take him a little bit longer to get back to defend this mid T2. Don't even know if you can defend the right T2. They're both going to fall down. 3,000 gold between the two for E United.
Allegiance thinking better of things, willing to take their chances underneath their own Phoenix. Instead, mid-Phoenix going to be the first priority target, and it's going to be Weaken actually blinking forward, unable to find anybody, but no, he's got the cleanup actually. Cyclone spin taking Benji down and out.
That time it's the right target as Scream falls in return for finding Met Yankee in the back line, so It's a 3v4. Weekend had to heal, so it's a 3v3 for the moment. The Cyclone's going to get stunned out a little bit too far forward, but Panda Cat takes a big chunk of damage. He airstrikes forward, no beads, because Weekend got those earlier, and Weekend is back and sets up for Oceans, who finds another. That's his 4th in this game. 10 in total for Allegiance as they defend their mid-Phoenix successfully, not only forcing United back, but taking 3 members in response.
And that is the play that they want to look for every single time. Weekend, though, he's not done just yet, actually forcing out the purification beads from Venenu. Venenu's not wanting to stick around, even though Weekend didn't have an ultimate, just couldn't risk being taunted in fear of what ALG might have coming in next.
Weekend also keeps Venenu there a little bit longer, so this tier 2 push is that much easier for Allegiance. With a late game soul, even without your Hunter, you got plenty of objective push. Oceans with the Obsidian Shard and the Rod of Tahuti Polynomicon as well to up that already insane objective push for the Allegiance mid laner. 35, nearly 36 minutes in. It's 19-10 in kills. E United's in the lead, and they're in the lead in gold as well, about 10,000. Pretty significant margin still at this stage in the game, but experience, don't worry about that. That's irrelevant now, and gold's going to become irrelevant pretty soon. Allegiance is right in this game.
And that response just also goes to show how much comeback potential is still available for ALG. The fact is, as soon as Benji went down, Allegiance completely committed to trying to clean up every other member from E United, and they did so successfully. Great target focus, I think, by Oceans and Met Yankee, just coordinating every single one of their abilities and in-hands onto the first person in sight.
I loved that team fight from Weekend. He blinks into the back line, he gets the purification beads from Panda Cat, forces him back at least for a second or two. Then he turns around and finds a low health Benji who's trying to heal off of his ultimate and says, no, you don't. He finds him with the last breath and secures that kill. That's exactly what I want my late game Circuits to be doing. Getting relics on the backside, then turning around and helping you kill the frontliners who have extended a little bit too far.
And for Neilmaw as well, he's really just trying to find anybody inside that cripple field. Whoever Weekend is blinking onto, Neilmaw is trying to get close as well, just to ensure that if they are going to commit to that god, then they have the lockdown potential.
Speed buff invade by E United. Not a big deal at this stage, but it does go successfully their way. Big deal is how much damage Venenu's doing to Weekend at this stage of the game. Big poke onto the Allegiance jungler. It's going to force him back to base. So E United's got a momentary 5v4 power play, and with the Portal Demon coming up, it's good timing for them. But Fire Giant's going to come up first. Remember, that's what E United secured before the Portal Demon. As Scream is looking to follow up on where Polar Bear Mike is going. Venenu right there as well. 2-man knockup. Big damage out of the mid-mage. Neil Muzz already gone. Panda Cat's going to find him. Weekend goes for a ride on top of Venenu's Tycho drums, but Panda Cat says no ticket to ride. He gets another kill, 2 in this fight, 13 in total for E United's Hunter. Cyclone Spin on the run. He's going in 1v4, and Met Yankee comes in and helps him clean up 1, but Panda Cat squishes down the bug with the airstrike. Oceans, again, the only one left, and I don't think he's going to survive this time. Deicide for E United, and their undefeated streak goes 1 game longer.
That was actually very unexpected. All of a sudden, and just completely out of nowhere, E United collapses on top of ALG, and just nothing to be done about it. Panda Cat just completely tearing through everybody on Allegiance.
14-3-9. His player